Hi, today I'm going to tell you about
cell division.
when cells need to divide, they undergo a process known as cell division, and we can explain cell division through the cell cycle. The first step of the cell cycle is interphase. Now in interphase, the cell physically grows larger and copies its organelles. Now the first step of interphase is gap 1. In gap 1, the cell grows larger and copies its organelles, like the mitochondria. And it also builds molecular building blocks for future use. Then the next step of interphase is this cool little thing called synthesis. In synthesis, the DNA is copied and the centrosome is also duplicated. This is something that will be helpful later on. I need to make some room. The next step is gap 2. Now in gap 2, the cell does grow some more and it makes some proteins, but essentially the big thing that happens is it reorganizes its contents into nice little spots so that we can work with them later in the next step, which is my favorite, the mitotic phase. Mitotic! Now in the mitotic phase, the DNA is separated and the cytoplasm is divided. Now the first part of the mitotic phase is mitosis, and here basically the DNA condenses into visible chromosomes and then proceeds to be pulled apart by the mitotic spindle. Now after mitosis is cytokinesis. This is where the cytoplasm of the cell physically splits in two, and two different cells are created. These are known as the daughter cells. Now cytokinesis happens slightly differently depending on whether or not it's happening in a plant cell or an animal cell. Now in animal cells, the contractile ring actually pinches inwards and splits the cell in two. Now this can happen because animal cells are relatively soft and squishy. Now unlike animal cells, plant cells are stiff and rigid. Because of this, they have to form a new structure down the middle of the cell called the cell plate. Now this structure actually partitions the cell into two pieces. Now it's made of a cell membrane and some other plant cell components, but no one really cares about that. Now it's time for the best part of cell division, mitosis. And we have a first-hand account of mitosis. So let's cut away to Michael giving an interview. I said cut away.
So, can you tell us, what did you see while you were in the cell?
Well, I was minding my own business, floating around the cytoplasms. Wasn't hurting nobody, just being myself. When all of a sudden, everyone starts lining up in the middle. I'm like, what's going on, guys? And then I see these long, spindly things reaching out and grabbing us, pulling us everywhere. It was terrifying. Wait a second. This thing isn't even plugged in. Okay, let me explain that for everyone who doesn't live in New Jersey. Now there are 4 parts to mitosis. First, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. Now in the first step, prophase, the centrioles, marked in red, move to the 2 sides of the cell. Next, in metaphase, the chromosomes line up in the middle of the cell, and the mitotic spindle reaches out and connects to them, like so. In the third step, anaphase, the chromosomes are split and pulled to their respective sides of the cell. And lastly, in telophase, the gist of telophase is that the chromosomes basically form a triangle of dense material and a nuclear envelope forms around each of them, basically tidying things up so that they're ready to form two new cells. And that's basically it, and at this time, each side of the cell has its own little nucleus, its own chromosomes, copied organelles. That's why we copied those earlier, so that they can move to the two separate sides. And from the help of the mitotic spindle, everything's all ready, and then the cell's like, hey, you know what? It's time for cytokinesis.
Fun fact!
Did you know that cytokinesis comes from the Greek words kaitos, meaning hollow cell, and kinesis, meaning motion? Also, the prefix cyto means cell, and that's how you get cytokinesis. Now, in animal cells, the something... Gosh... Did you know that cytokinesis... Okay. Did you know that... And that's basically it, and by this point, each side of the cell has its own little...
Staying alive.
What are you still doing here? The show's over. I said cut. Cut to the